This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Can the Browns shock the world? Can the Browns pull off the upset today versus the San Francisco 49ers? Down a starting quarterback. We already know Nick Chubb's out for the season. Joe Bitonio ain't playing. David Njoku, a game time decision. This team on the offensive side of the ball is battered. Definitely injured. No doubt. And this 49ers defense is nasty. They got Nick Bosa. They got Javon Hargrave. They got Fred Warner, some decent corners. And then Hufanga back there at safety. Oh, this is a good defense. It's a good defense going up against his offense. But maybe we focused on that side of the ball just a little too much. Because when I asked that question, can the Browns shock the world? Nobody, even if the Browns were 100% healthy, would assume that beating the 49ers would be a solely offensive effort. Hell, a lot of us would think, even with Deshaun, even with Nick, if the Browns beat the 49ers, it would be heavily reliant on the defensive output and the defense's ability to slow down that San Francisco offense. And again, this San Francisco offense is no joke. A good offensive line. George Kittle is an absolute dog still to this day. Brock Purdy, much better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Brandon Ayuk, I don't know if y'all hip to that one, but Brandon Ayuk's a guy, for real. He's a dude. He's a dude. He's not a jag as Steve Smith put it, or whoever said it. He's not just a guy. No, that's a dude. He's a legit dude. He's had over 140 receiving yards in 2 games already this season. He's a one-on-one killer. He's a dog. So is Debo. It's a good team. And Christian McCaffrey. I ain't even talked about C-Mac yet. But then you remember that this Browns defense is also not injured. And they have dudes on their defense. Myles Garrett, that's a dude. Grant Delpit, that's a dude. Greg Newsome, that's a dude. Denzel Ward, that's a dude. Martin Emerson, that's a dude. You know what I mean? They got some really good players on that side of the ball as well. I like the Browns defense. I think that this defense is very, very good. You look at the history. I touched on this in the video earlier this week. You look at the history of Jim Schwartz versus Kyle Shanahan. There's something that wide 9 front does that disrupts Kyle Shanahan. There's something about Jim Schwartz's will to want to have these athletic guys who can go sideline to sideline and get on these screens before they develop and tackle guys in the backfield before they start going downhill. That really bugs this 49ers offense. You look at the last time this 49ers offense struggled, and again, we're going to leave out the other 3 quarters, but just look at that first quarter of that 49ers Eagles game. Real disrupted. Even when Brock Purdy was in there. Real disrupted. Real disastrous first quarter for the 49ers. And I look at their schedule. I look at who they've played. I look at who they've played these last 15 games during the regular season win streak, and I just don't see any presence that reminds me of what they're playing today on the defensive line, at least, like the Cleveland Browns. Like, maybe you can make the argument that the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line was a similar caliber of defensive line to the Eagles, and they made Brock Purdy turn the ball over the only time he has. This 49ers offense is great. Brock Purdy is pretty damn good, but I think you can get to it and disrupt it if you get consistent pressure. And the way that the Browns can cover on the back end, I like their chances to be able to hold up. I don't think it's a fluke that Jim Schwartz has had good performances historically against his offense. I think it's something to do with the structure. And if Jim Schwartz was doing this with defensive lines and defenses that weren't as talented as the one that he has right now, I think it's a fair assumption to make that this defense is going to show up this week versus the 49ers. We've been so wrapped up in Shouldergate, arguing with other Browns fans about, is it the shoulder? Is he quitting on the team? All this ridiculous bullshit about whatever's going on with this shoulder. At the end of the day, we're just arguing to argue. But in all of that arguing to argue, being mad just to be mad, throwing stuff at each other just because we're still mad about the Baker Mayfield thing, or we want Kevin Stefanski fired, or wherever you sit on a number of these ridiculous, goofy wars that people fight with each other on social media that root for the same team allegedly. Wherever you sit on this, we know that this defense is good. And it's been hilarious to me to watch people proclaim that the season is dead, that this team sucks, when we know that we have the best defense in football. Like, what are you doing there? What are we doing here? What are we doing? Not a good defense, not a solid defense. The Commanders had a solid defense last year. We're talking about, we think that this team has the best defense in football with one of the best defensive players in football, but we don't think we got a shot in a game when those guys are playing. We've been so wrapped up in ridiculous, goofy bullshit as a fan base. No disrespect. Sorry I cursed, but it's the truth. We've been so wrapped up in it that we can't see the forest for the trees. We so wrapped up in who we want to get fired. We so wrapped up in who we want offensively to be gone, or who we're mad at because of this and that. We're so wrapped up in that, we're not talking about the whole team. I like the Browns defense. I like the Browns defensive line. I like the Browns DBs. I like their ability to disrupt what Kyle Shanahan likes to do. But that's not the whole game, right? I can't sit here and chastise people for only focusing on one side of the ball and then sit here and only talk about the defense. That'll be the same way, just flipped. Let's talk about the other two phases of the game. Let's talk about special teams. They're going to be important. Make no mistake about it. Even if the Browns offense has a hot first quarter, they're going to have to play the field possession game a ton. I think they're capable of it. And again, look what they did against the last few Shanahan-style offenses that they've played. I'm just saying, like, look at what they did against the Titans. That's the same offense that the 49ers run. Going to leave that one out there, right? But anyways, special teams. In order to win a game like this, you need a reliable kicker. Dustin Hopkins, he's been a reliable kicker. In order to win a game like this, you're going to need a decent game from your punter. The punter's been fine, right? Now, punt returner, kick returner, I don't care. They're not great, but I don't care. But that's what the side of the ball is there. And then offensively, you got PJ Walker starting. And there are some of us who are familiar with PJ Walker that are like kind of like low-key excited about seeing, because like we just like PJ Walker. I'm one of them. I like PJ Walker. I love his story. I love watching him play in the XFL. And I love watching him play when he's gotten a few chances in the NFL. And I think he's a lot like 2016 Tyrod Taylor. He really just needs a shot, but he's been buried on depth chart after depth chart. But whenever he's gotten an extended opportunity to play, I think he's proved himself. But he's never really gotten that opportunity. But I think this guy is closer to Tyrod Taylor than a lot of people think. And look, PJ Walker is not your average backup. It is the entire point that I'm trying to say. This is not like starting Case Keenum. This is not even like starting DTR. This is a veteran quarterback, 28-year-old guy, played a ton of pro football. He's played under a multitude of systems, right? If you just go back the last few years, all the way back to his XFL stuff, where he played for the Colts when he first got into the league. Then he played for June Jones 2 times, once in Temple and then once in the XFL. So he's played in that June Jones, spread him out cowboy kind of offense that just kind of throws the ball deep. And then he got back into the NFL, played under Matt Rule for the Panthers, and then was briefly with the Chicago Bears. Now he's here in Cleveland. PJ Walker is not your average backup. And when I say that, I mean, this dude's going to give guys chances to make plays on the football. Now that can turn into a lot of turnovers. That can turn into a lot of success. but he's going to give guys the opportunity to be successful at the wide receiver position. And if Elijah Moore has the game that we've been waiting for him to have, if DPJ has the game that we've been waiting for him to have, Amari Cooper has already had that game, but we know Amari Cooper, if you give him a chance to be successful, he will be successful. I think this is the kind of backup that can have a good game with this Cleveland Browns offense. He's not your average backup. He's not going to be Mr. Dink and Dunk. He's not going to be a guy that's going to have no chance versus an aggressive defense like the 49ers. He's the kind of guy that, look, he might turn the ball over. He might risk it a little bit more than he needs to. But that might be what you need this week, because if you think you're going to get by on Fred Warner, this defensive line, and Hufanga back there at safety, if you think this is the week you're going to get by on a bunch of slip screens and tight end screens, you got another thing coming. They're going to blow that shit up, okay? The easy stuff is not going to be there. They're going to force you to throw that thing deep. They're going to force you to take some shots. And PJ Walker is the kind of guy that's like, yeah, I'll take the shots. So it might work out. Like, honest to God, it might work out, right? Other defenses, they make you throw the screens, they make you throw the unders, and that's the kind of stuff that you really don't want PJ in there, because PJ might force it downfield. But PJ, if their plan is we're not going to give you anything easy and they're going to force you to go deep to intermediate, that's how PJ likes to work. So I feel good about that. I'm not guaranteeing a victory. I'm not even predicting a victory against the San Francisco 49ers. But I have seen the morale for this game be so much lower than it deserves to be. And I get it. PJ's in there. It's not the Sean. Okay, boo-hoo, wah. I know. I get it. It's not easy to be a Browns fan. I've been a Browns fan all my life. Trust me, I understand. I've been through the same stuff that you've been through. But also, if you have been a Browns fan your entire life, you should be able to look at this team and recognize that this is not the norm for Browns teams. We're talking about this as if this is a 2010 era Browns team, or God forbid, a Hugh Jackson era Browns team, where the talent is hopeless, where we had like one Pro Bowl player our first 8 years of existence. We're looking at a roster that has Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and a ton of great defensive players. We're talking about a defense that might be the best in franchise history, if not expansion franchise history for sure. Like, we're not talking about a normal team or a normal Browns team. So if you have been a fan a long time, like me, you should also be able to recognize that, hey, we might have a shot because maybe in years past, our defense wasn't good enough to do anything about a team like San Francisco if our offense couldn't live up to the billing. But our defense might be able to do something. This is really good defense. This is a defense I think can carry a team. We said Super Bowl quality defense. Well, if you think this is a Super Bowl quality defense, this Super Bowl quality defenses keep these kind of games close. So why are we coming in here with the death march already? I get that the doom and gloom is a natural feeling to jump back to as a Browns fan, because I find myself doing that. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. But what I am saying is that we also have to recognize that this is not the same situation as when it happened last year or 2 years ago or even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This is a different defense. If y'all actually believe in this defense, y'all actually believe in Jim Schwartz, this defense should be able to hold this game close. And there are reasons to believe that the offense can do enough. If they score in the first quarter of this game, this will be a close football game. If they score 2 scores in the first quarter of this game, the Browns might win. Tough acts, really tough acts. But there's reason to believe that this could happen. Not betting the farm on it, not even betting on it. Would not recommend you bet on this game. Either way, I think the spread is way too, what is that, 10? I think that's just not a reliable number. I think the Browns are going to be able to cover that, or it's just too volatile. I think this game is a little bit more mysterious than people are giving it credit for, and I think that's going to play itself out today. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.